Pau Hana Years, a new day for older Americans, a time for living. Your host, Bob Barker.
Hi, and welcome to the program for and by the senior citizens of Hawaii. Today on Pau Hana Years, our guest is Hawaii's Mother of the Year, Hana Keolanui. Hana, the American Mothers Committee of Hawaii selects the Mother of the Year from dozens of nominations. Who nominated you?
Our church members.
Your church members?
Yes.
And after the committee then selected you to be Hawaii's Mother of the Year, what happened?
Well, we prepared ourselves, and I booked on the United Airlines to go to, on a nonstop flight from Hawaii to New York. It took us 9 hours.
9 hours?
Yes.
And you went there for the competition with all the mothers from the other states?
Actually, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a competition. It was more on a fellowship basis. Whether I win, lose, or draw, I wanted to have nice fellowship and rapport with the mothers of each state.
Sure.
We also had the mother of Puerto Rico and also a mother from British District of Columbia.
Oh, yes, yes.
And there were 52 of us.
52 altogether.
Yes.
Well, what happened there in New York? What did you do?
Well, when we arrived on Sunday morning, we were the first ones to get there.
Oh, you were?
Yes. And later in the evening, the mother from Alaska came on in, and we met each other, and we fellowshiped together. Then on the Monday, the other mothers all came in, and we were the guests of the.
Where did you stay there?
We stayed at the Waldorf Astoria.
Waldorf Astoria.
Yeah, for a week, and we visited the Rockefeller Center. Had lunch at the what do you call that? United Nations.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we visited it, and then we were the guests there for lunch, all the mothers and their guests. And I think we had a wonderful time together. Then we met at the Waldorf, and we had our special dinner, because it started really on Tuesday morning.
The program started Tuesday morning.
Yes. But nevertheless, we got acquainted.
What was the program like? Did you all speak? Did you individually speak or anything?
Yes, each one of us got to the mic, and were allowed to speak 3 minutes on you and your family.
Oh.
And 3 minutes isn't long enough. But whatever we got through, over with, why it was talking about our children. And I spoke to them that I wasn't here for the competition. If I won, thank God. If I lost, I will still thank him.
Sure.
Because we were all good mothers. That is the reason why we were selected.
Who was selected American Mother?
Oh, the American Mother of the Year was from
one of the states?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yes. And she was a very nice mother. She was from a background of her father and mother came from Italy.
Oh.
They were foreigners, and she adopted a lot of children from Italy.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, and I guess
that had a bearing on it. Well, now when was it you went to New York?
It was on the 3rd of May.
Oh, back in May.
Yes.
Then you didn't come back right away, did you?
No. My husband said, since you're going up for this occasion, he said, I'd like to honor the Mother of the Year by going through some of the states.
Oh, so he went with you?
Yeah, he did. And, he keeps telling people that he had a ball with those 52 mothers. And, they called him they said, are you the Father of the Year? And I said, oh, come on. We didn't even get to our Mother's Day, and you're already. So they questioned him, Father of the Year. They called him Mr. and Mrs. Hawaii, we were called.
Oh, you were called?
Yeah. And every morning when we came down to the lobby, they were waiting for us, the mothers. They all wanted to take pictures because we were dressed alike in our, he had his, I had my momo'o, and he had a aloha shirt, similar. And the reason for it, they asked me why. I said, so we don't get lost.
Well, then you, then after this was over in New York, then you and your husband took a trip through the country?
Yes, we had a family friend who took us to their place in Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed with them. And after we visited with them for 3 days, we went on to Columbus, Ohio, and visited Reverend and Mrs. Ganser.
Oh,
He was a reverend at Kalaupapa.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and he retired and went back home. And then he had 4 churches that he was supposed to, he was in charge of. So he put us to work there.
Oh, he did?
We gave sermons.
You did?
Yes,
Oh.
at a United Church of Christ.
Oh,
And there are farmers out there in Somerset. And they asked us to pray for rain. They needed rain.
They needed rain.
So we said, well, we all get together and say a prayer. And it rained hard the next day.
Oh, did it?
It rained too much. But they were thankful for it, and they called us up to thank us for the prayers.
Oh.
And we sang a Hawaiian song, and it was, to me, it sounded beautiful because it was just both of us singing in Hawaiian.
Oh.
Savior like a shepherd lead us.
Oh, yes.
And they were so enthused that they clapped after we were through
Yes.
giving the sermon and singing the song. And I guess it was because of this love for Hawaii.
Yes.
Some of them have been here, and some were intend to come. And so we are happy that they would all be with us that day.
Sure. Well, then how long a trip did you take through the country on your way back to the
Hawaii?
coast? Yes.
It
Did
took
you
us
travel through-
2 months and 4 days.
Oh, well then you covered a lot of territory,
Yes.
didn't you?
We covered 26 states.
26 states.
Mm-hmm.
Had you been to the mainland before?
Yes, this was my 8th trip and was my husband's 4th trip.
Oh, Now, do you have some functions or duties to perform as the reigning Mother of the Year here in Hawaii?
No, we were told that we reign until the next mother is chosen. And it all depends who calls upon me. Before I left, there was a, no, I just forgot who it was.
Well, I know I called on you before you left.
Yes.
You said I wanted you when you got back.
When I got back, and then there was a furniture store who called me and had my picture in the paper with my granddaughter.
Oh, I see. Well, you have children.
T.S. Wall.
Oh, yes. You have children then?
Yes, I have 2 boys and a girl, and they're all married.
And grandchildren?
Grandchildren, we have 9, and I have 4 great-grandchildren.
Oh.
And the one came before I left, was a blessing to me. It was a little granddaughter. I had 3 grandsons, and then this granddaughter came along, and they called her Hannah Lee.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
That's nice.
So I was happy when I left. I had a namesake.
Sure. Hannah, do you think motherhood today is much different than it was when you were a young mother?
Well,
Raising
very much.
children?
The mothers nowadays are more independent. We were, for instance, the mothers today, they would just send their children to centers, like babysitting.
Sure.
And they had the money. And we, in the olden days, I raised my children until they were school age. No one was at home with me. Then I went to take up courses, to do what I wanted to do. And I knew I couldn't get to any high positions because I didn't have a high school diploma, or I didn't go to college. So whatever I tried to work for, I let my work push me up and account for itself.
And you were a teacher and a counselor, huh?
Yes. Well, when I was working at the School of Corrections for the boys and girls at Waimanalo, they merged the boys and girls together. First, it was the girls alone where I worked at. And then they brought the boys' school from Waile'i over to the girls' school, and they merged it, co-educational. And so Reverend Mr. Among was the superintendent. He took me from the boys' school, the girls' school, to work at the boys' school.
Oh, I see.
And I became the house mother at the boys' school in one of the cottages. And I like it because I had children. I brought up the boys and the girl. And getting these boys were like getting, even if they were what they were, well, I loved them anyway.
Sure, sure.
So I became mom to them. I guess this is why the Mother of the Year was based on how many of them call me mom. Some are in prison, they still call me mom.
Yes.
I don't look down at them. I just feel that they're part of me, even if they went astray. The Lord came to this earth to help the sinners. I'm a sinner too, regardless of whether I'm a reverend or not. But I have to thank God and repent every time I did a wrong thing.
Well, now you taught some other places too, didn't you? Did you teach other places too? Or counselor? Were you a counselor or a teacher?
Yes. Well, when I was at the boys' school, for 2 years after he called me back, I taught there for 5 years, and I went back out and I came back in again. Well, in between, I worked at different places. But there was a request for me to, if I wanted to go back to Kahuku High School to be a counselor, since I had the experience working with the boys and girls. So Mr. Among recommended me. And when he called me to the office and he told me about this job offer, and I said, oh, no, not me. I said, I haven't a degree, college degree, and maybe I worked with the boys and girls, but I don't think I'm qualified. He said, well, they want someone, and I thought you would be it. So I said, well, if the Lord is willing, I'll accept it. So I went for an interview, and I was accepted. And the little rascals, they were giving the teachers a bad time. They were jumping out of the window, and when I got to be the counselor there, I just looked from my window and saw the boys jumping off. So I just went out and I picked the boys, and I said, all right, the way you came out of that window, you go back.
Back into
it. Oh, I can't climb. I said, you go right back. Or I'll call your father off the plantation. They're working in the hot sun for you to educate you, and this is what you're doing with their money. I said, no, you just go back. And they went back in. They never came back out again. So I felt that, well, maybe this was it.
Sure.
And I had to, in order to be a counselor, you had to teach a class. So I had a 7th grade English.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just 2 periods. And the rest was in the office counseling. And I had so many counseling to do with the boys as well as some of the girls. Very few girls, but the boys were a little naughty, but nice.
Well, now, didn't you get a scholarship to study on the mainland?
Yes.
How was that?
That was when I taught for 11 years. They had a group coming down that they were going to open a retarded class in Hawaii. So I was one of the 106 teachers that was recommended to take that course. And when I was recommended, 160, I was the only one that didn't have a degree. Oh. But I had the experience.
Sure.
So out of that, they selected 10 teachers out of the 160. I was one of the 10 that was selected. Then they went down and weeded us out to 5. And did you know that 2 of them had their doctorate, 2 had their bachelor's, and I was the only one with experience. And I got the scholarship.
You got the scholarship.
Yes. And when I went away, it was given to me by the McInerney Fund. And I went away 6 weeks to San Francisco State College. And for 6 weeks I studied, and they even took me to some hospitals because the teacher there said that she had a teacher that was, I think she can get along with anyone.
Oh.
So they called me into the office, and I said, now what did I do? And I went in there, I said, did I do anything wrong? Said, no, we would like you to go to the hospital with some of our doctors and professors. There's a boy who cries all the time, and he's 14 years old. And we thought by getting you there, we'd like to see the reaction and see if these people who have recommended you is telling or is so close to what they are thinking. So I went, and I told the doctors and the nurses and whoever were there, you go ahead of me. And I had a muumou with a flower lei. I went to buy carnations. I made a flower lei, put it on, and I told them to walk in a triangle, and we went V shape. And when they came to the bed, then they parted, and here I was, and he just put his hand out and stopped crying. So the nurse and the doctor lifted him out and brought him to me, and I sang a Hawaiian song, a lullaby, and he fell off to sleep. And that was
something.
That was it for me. That was a place that I needed to be with them.
Sure. Well then, but you did get your bachelor's degree finally.
Yes, finally.
But quite late, huh?
13 years.
Took you 13 years to do it. And when was that? How old were you when you started?
I was 57. Oh, I was about
44.
45.
45?
Yes.
And then 13 years later,
I got my...
You were working all the time and still going to the university here.
I was fortunate that the Department of Education saw to it that every year I got a contract. And it was hard. It wasn't easy.
Working.
I would leave school, and Kahuku was 35 miles from University of Hawaii, and my principal were very nice to me. At 2 o'clock, I would close my classroom, and the custodian would come in to clean it. Then I'd get the car and go in, and my first class was at 3:30. I got out at 5:30, had supper, and then I went into another class, 7:30 to 9, and then I drove home. Sometimes I'd get home at 11 at night. And I was asked, why so late? I would park alongside of the road under a lamp post and lock my windows and bring it up to that amount so I get some air, and I'd sleep. Then the policeman would knock on my window, and he says, hey, Hannah, what is the matter? I said, and then I'd roll it down, and I said, oh, I got sleepy. So I parked under this light in case anybody wanted to get hold of me while I'd yell and the neighbors will hear. So he said, well, follow me. So the policeman would go ahead of me, and I'd follow him and get home. And I did that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And
well, when did you have time to study?
What do you mean?
Study for your university classes?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
You'd do your studying on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
And I did all my schoolwork during school hours.
Yeah.
Yes, while I taught, and after school I'd stay in till 4 o'clock.
And then all during this time you've been very active in church work all your life.
I even took up a homiletic course 5 years at our church every Friday night. When I get through with university, I didn't take a Friday night course. I took an afternoon course and did my Friday.
You are what is called a lay minister?
Yes, we work from the grassroots.
Your husband is a minister too?
Yes, we both are. And I think we speak the same language, and it's so nice to work with one another in our old age, Pau Hana time.
Yeah. When did you think your career started in your life?
Well, when I was 10 years old, I was kind of not fat as I am, but kind of tall. And the teachers had a meeting, and the principal asked the teachers, he needed someone to take over the first grade because the teacher was sick and couldn't get a substitute. So my teacher, Miss Hahn, recommended me. So the principal took me to the first grade, and the other two teachers on the side would come in and check up. And what I was to do was to make them write, read, sing, tell stories to them. And before you knew, the day was up.
You were 10 years old, so that meant you were in about the 4th or 5th grade, huh?
Yes.
And you went in and taught the first grade?
Yes. And then I was called several times, and I received checks of $5 a day.
Oh, they paid you for it?
Yes, because they needed me. And so I guess the principal paid me out of his own pocket. I don't know if the DOE did, but I know I was paid $5 every day. And then I wanted to teach after that.
Yes, that gave you a taste of it.
And then at 16 years, I went to work at the cannery. I thought, well, they won't give a 16-year-old a job, so 18 would have been. So they asked me, how old are you? I said, 16. And he said, well, come in and we'll talk it over. So he said, can you do this? Can you do that? Are you obedient? I said, yes. I said, we're raised by Christian parents, and we must obey. And so he said, well, you take the job. He said, we're not supposed to hire you, but he said, you show it to us what you can do. So I stayed on.
And you said you were tall for your age?
Yes, you know, I was tall, but not too big, big enough to be admitted to work. And I did what I was supposed to have done.
You mentioned you came from a Christian family. Were your parents, by any chance, involved in the ministry at all?
Yes, my dad was a licentiate.
Oh.
See, he only went to the 3rd grade in the public schools, but he went to the 8th grade in Chinese school.
Oh, yes.
And he worked at Honolulu Ironworks for 35 years as a shipping supervisor. So he was a learned man in his own way, like I was.
You were then approximately 10 years old when you started thinking about a career, huh?
Yes.
And it was always teaching? Did you
Always
have any other
teaching.
ideas?
Oh, and when I was a junior at McKinley High School, I wanted to be a nurse. The reason for it was my dad, as a licentiate, would be called any hour of the night to pray for the sick, and they'd come pick him up and take him. And I used to get up and say, Dad, I want to go with you. And then I would go and then see all the things he would do in praying for the sick. And then I see the family crying because the child is going to die.
Yes.
And then I would get emotionally upset, but same time, I wanted to help. And this is when I got to, at that stage, I wanted to become a nurse then.
But you never went ahead with any of that, any of the nursing ideas?
When I was a junior at high school, McKinley, they asked for volunteers to go to Queens Hospital for training. So 8 of us went, but I didn't make it because I was too emotionally upset.
Oh,
yeah,
you got too emotionally involved with the patients.
Yeah, not with the patient, but if I saw that the patient was going to die and the families came to cry and to see him for the last time, I would cry too.
Sure.
And that wasn't the nurses. So I went back. I wanted to be just be a housewife. But what stopped me from going on with my career, that when I was a senior, my sister was a senior at normal school, and both of us were going to graduate. And my father didn't have enough money to support both of us. So he asked me if I would, he didn't tell me to drop out, but he couldn't buy me all the clothes that, you know, at that time. Well, at that time we had to, you know, be up with the rest of the students. And I didn't have money, so I just called my boyfriend, and who was my husband, and now he's my husband. So I told him the situation. He said, let's get married. He was a senior at Kamehameha School. So we got married.
You got married then.
Yes. And that was a career. We raised children, and we were happy.
Sure.
Yes.
Where is your church located?
At Kalihi, 1313 Camfort Road. It was, part of the members came from Moanalua Garden, the Damon Estate. And when they died off and they moved to Kalihi, then they merged. They brought Moanalua to Kalihi,
I see.
and we merged. So it's Kalihi and Moanalua. It's not two separate churches.
What size membership do you have?
Oh, we don't have very much members. We have about 49, but we're closely knitted, like a happy family.
Sure, sure. Well, Hannah, we certainly thank you for visiting with us, and hope you have a very pleasant reign as Hawaii's Mother of the Year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for having me.
Our guest, Hannah Keolanui, Hawaii's Mother of the Year. And that's Pau Hana Years for today. Until our next program, this is Bob Barker leaving you with this thought. If you would reform the world from its errors and vices, begin by enlisting the mothers.
Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow